Welcome everybody into today's webinar session. My name is Ray Walters. I'm with Epi Compliance. I will be your host for today's session. Joined here with my co-host, Mr. Jose Delgado. Jose has 20 plus years of experience in healthcare consulting, currently runs a mental telehealth clinic, has a ton of insight, and especially, Jose, you're not an attorney, right?
No, I'm a fan of law, but I'm not
Yeah.
an attorney. I'm a
Um,
fan of a lot of the shenanigans.
For those that might be joining us here for the first time, we've been covering some interesting topics as of recent. Last week we had a special guest, Dr. Jose Delgado, on here. We were talking about the OIG, essentially what they've been looking for and auditing these practices. So I guess it's safe to say we've been sort of on a I guess the lawsuit side of healthcare, Jose, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
So I mean, so we don't lose the plot.
yeah, yeah,
On justice.gov, they released a statement talking about Walgreens owing 300, well, being found liable for $350 million. Now, mind you,
crazy.
this is not the case from 2022, the case from like 2013, the case from 2010. No, this is just this one case. Not to mention any of the other issues that Walgreens and CVS have with the federal government. But if based on the way the federal government puts it, is they're putting it as illegally filling unlawful opioid prescriptions and submitting false claims. Now, normally, if you're a small office, the False Claims Act violation would be the death of your business because you'd be on the blacklist and you couldn't work in any program that takes federal money. I don't know how they're getting away with not getting on this list. It may be that because they're a large corporation and their pharmacists are all over the place, they're not going for each specific one. But
Right.
basically, what they're saying is that the only reason why it's only 350 million and not more is because they don't have the ability to pay the fine that is appropriate. But if Walgreens, which is currently a private company, but was a public company up until recently, if they go public or is sold or merged, then they owe another 50 mil. So basically, Walgreens' actual penalty is 400 million in this case alone, which is a
That
wild
is
state.
it's a lot of money.
Now, Walgreens, of course, does not see this way. They see this that in their statement, which was super short. We're asking the court to clarify the responsibilities of pharmacies and pharmacists to protect against the government's attempt to enforce arbitrary rules that do not appear in any law or regulation and never went through any official rulemaking process. We'll not stand by and allow the government to put our pharmacists in a no-win situation trying to comply with rules that simply don't exist. Walgreens stands behind their pharmacists, dedicated healthcare professionals who live in communities they serve, filling legitimate prescriptions for FDA-approved meds written by DA licensed prescribers in accordance with all applicable laws and regs. Walgreens has long been a leader in providing education resources as well as implementing best-in-class policies and procedures to help combat opioid misuse and abuse. Bunch of corporate nonsense. All right,
Yeah.
so if we were to really drive this home, what is the problem? If you're in the healthcare industry, which most of our viewers are on the admin side, so we deal with the difficulties of working with these pharmacies and the way that they want the prescriptions done, so that way they can fill the prescription properly. If you've been having problems since 2021, it's because of this lawsuit and the one from 2022
Well,
because
it
they've been
seems
getting
like
flat. Because go ahead.
basically Walgreens took the do more with less, and it made it a compliance liability. Or I guess based off
No,
the
so the joke used to be that, and this is where Walgreens and CVS to a certain extent in certain regions had a notorious, how can I put this, reputation in the community that you could literally send anything and they would fill the script out, which is actually why they're in trouble. Now they've gone to the point to where they've gone the opposite end
The
from going
opposite.
so loose that they were, I don't know if the term would be, they were allowing a lot of local discretion as to what got filled and what did not get filled, to now it's gone completely the opposite way where it's damn near impossible to get anything squared away. We see this in our practice where I've had to literally speak to these pharmacists and they would tell me, "Hey, we can't do this script." And when I ask why, they tell me federal or state regulations. When I ask for them to citate, they eventually come back and say, "Well, really, it's a company policy. We're not allowed anymore to do any scripts for telemedicine patients that are outside of a certain geographic area," which kind of defeats the purpose of telemedicine in general and the way that the states and federal government
Right.
have designed the rules for telemedicine. But I'm not going to get into the logic of the situation. The reality of the matter is Walgreens and CVS got their hand caught in the cookie jar twice in 3 or 4 years to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, and the way that they got to pay it out is absolutely wild. I actually have from justice.gov the terms that Walgreens has to pay the $350 million, and basically it's they have to pay it with an interest rate of 4% per year occurring from October 20th, 2024, of which $150 million will be restitution. Payments must be made according to the schedule attached here to is Exhibit A. An upfront payment within 21 days of $20 million. Just,
Imagine being a
hey, by the way,
pharmacist there. I mean,
I don't know how you're
well,
gonna do this. I mean, I can't imagine
did you?
the stress that accounting had to have had at Walgreens corporate to be like, we got to find $20 million in 3 weeks, or this is done.
I was gonna say, let
Like,
alone the turnover issues I'm sure that are coming from this. So, what pharmacist
oh, well,
will,
I mean, it's so there's a ton of turnover issues, but there's a lot of issues here. I mean, like
Oh yeah,
you're
oh yeah, oh yeah.
you're talking about, I mean, they have a full schedule here about how they have to pay for it. If employee bonuses exceed $400 million adjusted for inflation from the time of the date, any additional amount exceeding 400 million shall be added to the Walgreens cash flow, free cash flow formula that the federal government put together, so they pay back even more early. I mean, it is absolutely like the way that the federal government is wrote down how this settlement is happening. Wild. I mean, it is.
I know we're talking about, this thing as a whole, but I keep going back to the pharmacists, right? Can they face board investigations because of
so
this, or
so
are they protected, or I'm
so
curious.
here's normally how it goes, right? Normally how it goes is if I am a pharmacist, just like any other licensed medical professional, if this is a one-off thing, as in I am the only guy at this location that's just pumping out oxycodone scripts, just to throw down an example, right? That
Sure.
everybody would be familiar with, then I'm going to jail. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. What the federal government was able to do was that they were able to prove that this is not a one-off situation in one location, but an
This is multiple.
institutional situation across the entire nation.
Phew.
The federal government was able to prove to the point to where they settled, although CVS and Walgreens are very quick to be like, "Hey, we don't accept any liability. We didn't do anything wrong, but we are going to pay." So this is a situation where when we go, I mean, CVS also argues the same thing, buddy. So the problem that we're having here, give me 1 second, guys. Buddy. All right, sorry about that. So, we didn't need the guest for today.
Okay.
So, when it comes to this, this is also a situation where the pharmacies are arguing that the DEA and the FDA have rules that clash. My problem is that I don't see that to be the case. Here's why.
Sure.
If I'm a provider, right? I believe that a script is clinically necessary. I write said script. In most cases, you have what's called a PDMP, which is basically just a database for all controlled substances that are being prescribed. Everyone is on this. You do not have a choice. You are on a database. You are being tracked. If you are a person in the United States that is prescribed any class 2, any narcotic, any opioid, Suboxone, which is not a class 2, is also on there as well, methadone as well. You are on this database.
Yep. Yep.
When the pharmacy receives the script, they are supposed to check three things. One, that PDMP
Yep.
to make sure that patient isn't doctor shopping and pharmacy
Pill
shopping.
mills, you know.
Yep. Yep. They're trying to avoid the pill mill. Two, they got to check the provider's license to make sure that they're even allowed to write this script. And then three, what they'll normally do is that they'll also check to see if this patient is on any medications that are contraindicated. This is outside of the logistics of having the drug physically in the pharmacy or available to them to be able to send out. That's a logistics thing, that's a warehousing thing, but they normally do that as well. So there's multiple phases here that they are saying that, oh, blah, blah, blah. We didn't know we weren't supposed to do that. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. The minimal effort that small pharmacies are able to, you mean to tell me that a small pharmacy is able to do this just fine, but Walgreens and CVS can't figure it out? That doesn't make any sense, especially with the way that they're being preferentially treated with these PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, because they're either owned or work with companies like Optum or United or Cigna, where if you're on a certain insurance plan, this is the only pharmacy you can go to. So how are you going to sit here and tell me that you didn't know you weren't supposed to do that, Ossifer? How are you going to sit here and tell me that you supposedly believe that federal law does not impose a specific quantitative minimum or maximum limit on the amount of medication that may be prescribed on a single prescription, or the duration of treatment intended with the prescribed controlled substance? Federal law doesn't, but state law does.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of different ways that CVS and Walgreens are trying to play fast and loose by saying you can't get me here because of this, but then when this has something, they're trying to say you can't get me there either. So it's really, they're trying to legalese this, but the reality of the matter is that they did this and they
Yeah.
were
And they're
known to
still
have done
paying
this.
and they're still paying a settlement.
And they're,
So,
well, this
well,
isn't the only
CVS
one.
is,
If this was
yeah.
the only one, I'd be like, okay, cool. You got your hand caught in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
Pay Uncle Sam and let's be on our merry way. But this is the one from 2024. This is
Right.
the one that went into settlement in 2024, and then they released what the amounts were in the settlement and all that fun stuff. This isn't even the case from 2022. That when I was trying to research the 2024 case, not even to mention the 2025 case about this same thing. I mean, I will say that the 2022 case is kind of odd, and some of the state cases are kind of odd. And I would highly recommend everybody take a look at it. The state and federal governments, it seems as though they're in one, a fundraising mode, and two, trying to blame somebody for the opioid epidemic for this and that has occurred this entire century. In the 1900s, it was actual opiates, and in the early 2000s, it was pharmacological opiates, right? So this is why you're seeing in this case not only CVS, not only Walgreens, but some of the pharmacy companies and some of the insurance companies that own pharmacies are also getting hit. So opioid opioid prescriptions. you can do more research than what we can give you in the next 25 minutes about whether opioids and a lot of the class twos that are on the market are truly appropriate for treating patients. I'm not going to get into that. I didn't go to medical school for it. My ethical belief is it got through the FDA, right? And everybody tells me the FDA is good. So, I mean, as with all things, overuse is a problem. Anything in small doses is a good thing. And
Yeah.
you can probably throw a rock and know somebody that got addicted to some of these drugs or was extremely concerned about the highly addictive nature of these medications. So, some of that needs to be patient responsibility. Patients are not dumb, lazy perhaps, but not dumb. And a lot of times education goes a long way. I mean, so much so that they used to prescribe smoking cigarettes. And now, if you look at the percentage of Gen X and millennials that smoke cigarettes, it's the smallest of all the generations. Why? Because we constantly had anti-smoking ads, anti-smoking campaigns, and we had a ton of information that was available to us about the effects of smoking. And I don't add
I would
Gen
argue the
Zers in here because now they're
alternatives.
freaking vaping. You
I was
know,
good there.
and
Just took the
it's,
words out of my
I
mouth.
mean, in my day, if I
But
wanted to vape, I would just go to an auto body shop and deal with the fiberglass in there, or go up and hang out in insulation in an attic, you know? So,
it's
um,
the healthy alternative to a cigarette,
yeah,
apparently,
I
allegedly.
mean, yeah,
Not
yeah.
enough data to back that yet.
So
But
my biggest problem is the False Claims Act portion, right? In that normally when a false claims act case is done, there is a level of actual hammer coming down, not just a financial one. And I don't see that. Nobody's in cuffs, nobody's going to jail, nobody's losing their license, nobody's on a blacklist, nobody is being kicked out of being unable to participate in federal programs. Like I don't see any of that in here. Walgreens has entered into agreements with DEA and HHS-OIG to address its future obligations in dispensing controlled substances. They entered into an MOA that requires the company to implement and maintain certain compliance measures for the next 7 years. Like, that's nothing. Do you know what would happen to a small pharmacy if they did this nonsense? They wouldn't be allowed to prescribe controlled substances. Just start with. Like, I
so
don't
I'm just curious,
understand
the False Claims Act, that's civil law, right? It's not criminal.
fall. Well, the PPACA changed that.
Did they? Because
Um, because anything
if
that's
it's civil law,
civil
they
in
can go
regards to
after
fraud can be seen as also
criminal.
it can be criminal as well.
I see.
Now, another interesting piece of this too was within the False Claims Act, there were some individuals that were named that weren't named in the settlement or anything I could find, but there was a whistleblower
Well,
involved,
Hillary,
and the
her name's in
whistleblower
there.
walked away.
Did you see
Huh?
that? I said her name's in the article. Hillary Estrite,
Okay, all right, all right, all
a
right. I didn't.
former.
I thought I
Oh,
missed it.
this is the former CVS employee. Not.
Okay, all right. So that's CVS. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so Walgreens, they
I don't.
mention it in here. Hold on. I thought I had it. All right. The FCA authorizes whistleblowers to sue on behalf of the U.S. or receive a share of the company or of the recovery. It also permits the U.S. to intervene to take over lawsuits, as it did here. The relators, the whistleblowers, will receive a 17.25% share of the government's
Dude.
recovery.
The CVS
Normally
employee.
it's 10%. This is almost 20%, which makes me think that there was more than one whistleblower in here. But
Yeah, you could be right. I just the
20, I
CVS
mean,
article says. Well, it doesn't
look,
say a
man,
percentage, but
look,
if she's
man,
successful, she may receive a substantial portion of the
look,
recovery, which could amount to millions of dollars.
it's 350 million.
Oh my God.
10% is 35 million.
You're set.
5%, 17 and a
Generational
half
wealth created.
million dollars to be able to whistleblow. And this is my problem, right? This is another problem I have. I love that the Whistleblower Act incentivizes people to do the right thing. However, because of the litigious nature that the American culture has and has had,
Hmm.
and the massive fundraising efforts the federal government is conducting, this very well could have been they caught one pharmacist in the with their hand in the cookie jar and they just flipped them. Hey, you won't get into trouble, but we want everything. And so he gave them training manuals, he gave them email chains, phone calls, all kinds of nonsense I'm sure were involved there. Not that it would take that much, but it's still, just the fact of the matter. Um,
Yep.
because the numbers here are just wild. Because if you look at a Walgreens in one area, we're in Florida, Ray. So
There's one on every corner.
to say that one Walgreens serves 2,000 Medicare beneficiaries
Yeah.
is not a wild statement.
No.
So if you look at the False Claims Act piece, right, and you look at the penalties involved, you're talking that it'd be $2,000, 2,000 patients in there. If you're talking, hey, these penalties could be three times what the government's actual loss was. I mean, you're at 600 grand just by saying 10K per. And they didn't, because they got the $300 million, for a nationwide. So it's wild to me that there is so much that they were as bad as the financial penalty is,
Yeah.
they weren't hit with any of the things that actually hurt them from making money moving forward.
No, I agree.
Because this isn't going to affect this may affect their CVS's stock. This may affect Cigna's stock, Optum's stock, but it's not going to affect their ability to make money. It's not going to affect any future contracts other than the fact that they got this fine that they're paying off over multiple years. Like there's nothing here that prevents them from doing business. If this was a smaller pharmacy, they'd hit them
They'd
with the
be done.
freaking fine and close the
They would
pharmacy
be done.
and pull their licensure. Like there's no so it's almost like they created the monster and they're not willing to stop the monster from continuing to grow. They essentially, for lack of a better term, they got the civil win because they could put it on the news. But the actual preventative measure is still not there. That's a joke. You got to
Yeah,
guarantee
that's
7
crazy.
years of compliance. You're going to do that anyways because you got caught. There's nothing special in here. Nothing at all. I wish that there was. I mean, you look at this stuff and you just say, why is this not? Why is this not more? Right? There should be more to this. There should be more meat to this. It looks nice, but it's not that impressive. And if I was CVS or Walgreens, do I even care? Because, okay, so this is the new one. All right, well, guess what? I just saw a month ago, CVS is getting indicted and investigated by the federal government for kickbacks, illegal kickbacks to Medicare enrollees and Medicare Advantage enrollees. And then another one, you know what I mean? Like, and then the other one from 2022 that settled for another stupid amount of money. But there's nothing changing how they do business.
I just think they both reached too big to fail.
And that's my
That's
problem.
the problem.
It's my problem. That
That's the
in a
problem.
nutshell, in a
It's like
nutshell,
they're
you
immune.
have a
You know,
situation where the
crazy.
federal government is going to take the money and they're going to walk away.
But they
And
got,
when I look at how much just Walgreens has invested, shall I say, in lobbying alone, This year, I mean, it was already at like 30 million.
I think the government still needs them. That's
It's
what it comes down to.
wild. Um, so Walgreens, 800,000. I guess it was CVS that I saw 820,000. And
I did
I
look up
mean,
the amount of pharmacies. 20,000 pharmacies combined over the or all over the US. CVS and Walgreens combined, 20,000 different pharmacies.
but I would love to see a heat map because you can drive around, and when you see a CVS, Walgreens is right across the street,
Oh yeah. Yep.
right? So I truly wonder how many areas would be without a pharmacy in their area if both of those got hit with the ban hammer. And I don't think it would be that bad, especially with how many mail to home pharmacies there are, with how many
Sure.
smaller local pharmacies there are. If you actually want to help the communities, then why wouldn't you want to prop up small business like this? I'm a huge capitalist, but this is wild because if I got hit with something like this, they would close my doors.
Yep.
They would close
Absolutely.
my doors. They would take the licenses of off all my providers.
Because they want, you know what? I'm convinced they want those patients to go to Walgreens or CVS.
I don't know. I truly don't know because I mean the problem is they already have it for the
Yeah.
most part. If you have a certain insurance company, like I want to say Optum is with CVS because that's the pharmacy. Optum is a pharmacy benefit manager. Walgreens, I want to say they have United, as and they're exclusive contracts.
I know they got
So
TRICARE.
it's just wild, 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 wild to me. I would like to see them actually get in trouble. And I'm not saying anybody from the board who doesn't have a license and has probably never stepped foot in one of their pharmacies should go to jail. I'm not saying that the pharmacist necessarily should go to jail, but there's no way you're going to tell me that a pharmacist that is licensed within a state that has regulations about how to prescribe is knowingly violating the
No,
rules.
you'd think it'd be a pharmacist that was the whistleblower.
I don't
I
know.
don't even
I
think it was. I don't
honestly,
think this chick was
I
a
I think
pharmacist.
it was a pharmacist.
Was it Haley Estrade? I
I
don't.
think so.
It
I would
could.
not.
It
I
could
mean, if
be.
it is, we'll be able to look it up because they have a license.
You know what? Why not?
I mean, if for the reality of the matter is that this is stuff that's known, man. People have known this that they were doing this stuff. And people have known that they were doing it. And for a while there, it got so bad, so bad. I don't know about most of the U.S., but in Florida, 2021, 2022, there was a very big shortage on ADHD medication. And so pharmacies were making up all kinds of stupid rules that they were calling laws and were not laws about how they could or when they would prescribe medications. So I say this, all of this, and we go into all of this because if you're in healthcare and you're in management, your number one responsibility is to your patients. Your number two responsibility, which really is like a 1A, 1B kind of situation, is to your team, right? Like
Yep.
I run our mental health office. My job is to make sure that my providers keep their license. So I do everything in my power to make sure that they are doing the things that they need to do in the way that they need to do them. I mean, we go out of our way to make sure that we're following DEA rules because I don't want the DEA coming to my office. We go out of our way to make sure that we're not filing false claims to the federal government because we don't want anybody in the organization to end up on that blacklist. So I sit here and say, hey, when you're dealing with a pharmacy like this that is large, Sometimes the best thing to do when you find that they're being extremely difficult for no reason at all, when you know that what you're doing is right, is just to stop sending scripts to them. We stopped sending scripts to Walgreens 2 years ago. We just don't work with them. Any patient of ours that has a Walgreens script,
It's a good point.
we just tell them we're not going to fill it. We're not going to send it because it's just too much of a pain in the ass.
No, it
They
makes
make us
sense.
go through so many hoops and hurdles for something that everyone knows they my providers
But
are
you could
able
do
to
it
do,
through
and it's
somewhere
freaking
else
amazing.
with ease, you know. There's no
Huh?
I said where you could, whereas you could do it, so you know, you could fill the script somewhere else and not have to deal with
Well,
all
and
the
it's not
BS.
even, and now again, there's a certain level of filling it with ease that can cause a problem liability wise,
Of
right?
course, of
So
course.
we have to be clear. It's not that we're looking to do it with ease, but we're looking for a we actively search in our community for a collaborative relationship with the pharmacies that we work with. It should not be a combative and hostile relationship. Because if we're being honest, the purpose of a pharmacy is to assist the patient in getting the meds they need at the dosages they need them. Provider's job is to clinically decide what meds are clinically necessary for the patient. So this should be a collaborative relationship. I'm not saying that either party is perfect or 100% imperfect, but when you get to the point to where they are combative about things, it doesn't make you want to work with them. So you just cut ties. And since we don't take many insurances anymore, anyways, it really doesn't matter to us. You know what I mean? Like it's just gotten to the point where it's just not worth it. It's just not. I mean, we'll tell our patients, look, all right, yeah, if you go to Walgreens, they may give you one price. Go to SureScripts. It'll tell you where that same drug is on sale somewhere else. Or if you go to a smaller pharmacy, they may be able to get you the drug for a close price with better service.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I don't know anybody that will sit here and tell me they have a better experience with larger companies than they do with smaller local companies that you can see the owners, the people that work, the people that care. You know what I mean? Like you're never gonna, I'm not gonna believe it. I don't believe it for my restaurants. I don't believe it for my hotels. I don't believe it for my healthcare. So we brought this up today because we thought it would be interesting. I did not, as tuned in as I am, I did not realize. And when I started going down the rabbit hole, I literally, where was it? Since 2000, CVS has paid in penalties almost $7 billion for a variety of issues, from off-label or unapproved promotion of medical products, false claims acts, consumer protection violation, controlled substance act violation, wage and hour violations. I mean, it is absolutely stupid how many cases there are that you can look up what these penalties are, and they have two commas. None of these penalties or fines that these companies are receiving
It's a
is
freaking
less than
that's
1.5
a
mil.
nickel to them.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
How is this? Well, I just don't understand how they're allowed to continue when you have this kind of a track record. I
I
wish I
get
could sort. Oh, let me see if I can sort it this way. All right. So based off of this violation tracker, which is a watchdog website, they're saying CVS alone, and they're including Aetna Health, but let's just go ahead and just CVS. In the year of 2024, we've got one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine different federal violations. Federal and state, I apologize. Federal and state violations for all kinds of things. And this isn't including any of the Aetna Health of California, which there are four 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in just 2024. How many times do you have to break the law and get caught and still be allowed to operate just normally? It's a genuine question. I don't understand.
Well, like the CVS, it was one whistleblower. Maybe it's going to take
I
an
mean,
army of them, you know?
I'm just looking at this stuff and it's just you've got all kinds of crap in here. You've got employer employee violations. You've got insurance violations. You've got consumer protection and violations. You've got a False Claims Act in here. You've got workplace safety and health. You've got freaking OSHA violations. You know what I mean? Like
So whose fault does it come
it's
down to? Is it the provider that's sending the scripts to Walgreens and CVS now because
well, okay, so that's a great question.
millions of patients
That's a
rely
great
on them,
question. But
right?
think about it like this.
And as a
If the
patient, you don't
providers that were
care.
attached to the scripts were violating the law, they would be in jail too. They
Yeah.
would be part of the class action. So it's not that the script was and this is where they're trying to argue that, hey, how can we be doing something illegal if the script itself is not illegal? Okay, but if you're giving a patient a 90-day script of a class 2 pain med, nobody does that anymore.
No.
You're giving them 90 days worth of the meds on day one. No one does that anymore. No one's been doing that for the last decade. Why are you?
Old school.
It just doesn't work that way because the DEA requires it to be 30-day scripts.
Yeah.
So that 90-day script that the pharmacy is getting is 3 individual prescriptions. The initial one and
So
2
we're on to something
refills.
here then. So
So it's not that the script is wrong, it's that the way that they were filling it was stupid and lazy.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
But,
It's beneficial for the patient for me to just give them 90 days worth of Xanax, worth of Adderall.
and not question the provider calling it in.
And it's not even about the question of the provider because they're giving them 3 scripts.
True.
Here's your one, plus your second bottle, plus your third bottle. They're not
But
usually
they're not
putting it all in one bottle.
right.
You
No,
know what I
good
mean?
point.
Like,
Good point.
why
Lazy.
why are you being stupid? Why are you being stupid? If you're telling me that you know that these controlled substances are potentially dangerous and habit forming and there's a potential for abuse, why do you need the federal government to come down on you for something stupid? I understand that it's common sense and I apologize, but if a dum dum like me can figure out that, hey, just maybe I shouldn't give this patient coming in for their with their 90-day script of hydrocodone all 90
All of
days
it
of
at
it,
once.
all in one go.
Pretty dumb. Pretty dumb, actually, if you think about it.
What are we doing? I mean, and that's just on the opioid side of things, right? Like, we're not even talking about the False Claims Act piece. You know what I mean? Like, that's a whole nother bag of tricks. So I'm very disappointed with the federal and state governments for not doing more. That's the TLDR. They got hit with the money hammer. They don't care. Clearly, they don't. I mean, what was the market cap for Walgreens last year?
Couldn't tell you, but internet search will.
Yeah, here, hold on. 8.3 billion. That was their market cap last year. 8.3 billion. 2023 was 22.5 billion. 2022 was 32 and a quarter billion American dollars.
So
Market cap as of April 14, 2025, $9.35 billion.
we were talking about the lazy pharmacist, just filling filling it all at once, just fill it.
Yeah,
Would you
there's no reason
say,
for that.
I would say
There's no
there's
reason.
got to be metrics that would correlate with inexperience or it has to be it can't just be a seasoned pharmacist that's just doing that. I feel like this
So
is
if you're going to tell me that it's a training problem,
that's what I'm alluding to. I think
okay. So if you're
that
saying
might
that it's a training problem, you still have a problem
oh, of
because that
course, of
pharmacist is
course,
licensed by the state that they're in. And they went to pharmacy school and they have a degree in pharmacology. So they know what these drugs do, or they're supposed to.
supposed to. Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
I'm
a
just trying to
quick Google
correlate
search will
something
tell you what these
that's so
what.
common sense in that field. You know what I mean? There's got to be some inadequate training or just inexperience involved
So
overall. But you think if I'm like a first year pharmacist and I'm working for Walgreens, I got to have somebody that's probably looking over my shoulder or providing some
guarantee
oversight.
you
Maybe
there is
not.
a regional manager, there's a store
Yeah,
manager,
exactly. Which is nothing.
there is a, I
It's
mean, and I'm talking about just for the pharmacy side, not just for the store with the pharmacy, right? Because
of
these are
course,
drugstores
of course.
and for lack of a better term, mini grocery stores, right? And so in a lot of markets. So you're sitting here in the pharmacy. You probably, if you're a brand new pharmacist, fresh from college, fresh from getting your state license, you have a pharmacist that you're working with. You have farm techs that are also in there. Now, granted, they don't have the same level of training as you do, but you're a pharmacist. You should know what you are legally allowed to do within your jurisdiction and what you're not allowed to do based on the state that you're in.
Mhm.
Like that's set by the state, that's set by the DEA. Those are very, very clear rules and mandates.
Sure.
Now, if you're going to tell me again, like, hey, all right, maybe they're hitting us for filling all these scripts at once. Okay, cool. Well, what's the company policy on that? The company policy is just whatever script comes in, you fill it out. Well, clearly you deserve to get hit with the hammer on this. But this is institutional.
Yep.
So why isn't the federal government taking a harder stance on show me what the training is? Show me what the policies and procedures are. This is not
I
difficult.
agree.
This is something the federal government would ask of a hospital. They would
Agreed.
ask this of a small pharmacy if they allowed the small pharmacy to even retain the ability to prescribe. Why can't they do that with CVS and Walgreens that has market caps in the billions of dollars?
Yeah.
CVS is still publicly traded. Walgreens went private, but still you're still looking at if you're still I'm sorry, but if you're looking at billions of dollars of revenue, that is a wild statement. That training needs to be much, much tighter.
Agree.
If you have, I would love, I know that we've got a hard out in a couple minutes, but if anybody watching this knows an ex Walgreens or CVS pharmacist, I would love to interview them. If they were working there during this time period of let's say 2017, because some of these cases go all the way back to 2015, 2016. So 2017, so the era before COVID to literally up until last week, I would love to sit down and talk to them. And we can record it and we can do all kinds of fun things to make sure if you're afraid of being, on here and using your real name. I mean, we can figure all that fun stuff out, right? Ray's techie like that.
You'd be able to
But
block.
I would love to know what they saw.
Yeah.
So,
We can maybe make that happen. We'll see.
yeah. So, with that said, guys, what do we got going on next week, Ray?
Yeah, so next week we're gonna bring Rick Acevedo back on. Again, he's a IT director, specializes in healthcare IT, and we're gonna have him weigh in on that the Vita article that you sent over. Um, if you want to shed a little light on
That
that
one's an
situation.
interesting, yeah, that one's an interesting case. We'll go into it more next week, but Basically, they had a breach, but it only affected certain aspects of the business. Other aspects were completely unaffected, so they
Unaffected.
were able to continue operating. It was very, very interesting. So I'd love to see what more information is out there so we can go over it.
No, absolutely. And looking forward to getting Rick's perspective on that as well, being in the IT side of things. So it'll be a
Yeah.
good one. And then after that, I know you and I talked about potentially discussing this Florida bill for overpayments.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
that'll be the week after, and then you'll be on vacation, and
Yes.
I'll be
On June the week of June 8th.
gotcha.
So if I can, I'll jump on, but I don't know. I have to do a little bit of research to see
I'll be
how
reaching
I
out to
can.
Dr. Delgado and seeing if you'd like to discuss anything as of
Yeah.
recent. So um, we're still full force ahead. We're going to be hosting these every Tuesday. So but other than that, no, Jose, I think this was a good one to talk on. A lot of
Yeah.
good insights,
Yeah.
and I guess
I
we'll
love
see.
everybody's feedback, if you like it, if you don't like it, let us know.
Yeah,
We got a
absolutely.
couple different ideas for things we're going to do to keep growing the channel and the podcast. So stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and put our YouTube channel here in the chat. We recently reached 100 plus subscribers. So I appreciate everybody. It's been a long time coming. We will be posting all of our sessions. Today's session will go up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. Please feel free to like and subscribe and share. Again, we've been doing these since October 2023. There's plenty of content to look over. Please feel free to share that with your peers as well. But other than that, Jose, I'll let you get back to it. Again, appreciate your time,
Yep.
your insights as always. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to Jose or myself. You guys will be receiving an email here shortly with the link to register for next week's webinar. Um, again, Jose, take care, and we'll see everybody
Yep.
else next week.
Stay out of trouble, guys. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Sunshine.